everybody. This is Matt Orozco from Macabre Daily.
And this is Lowell Greenblat from Macabre Daily.
Hey!
Timed that perfectly.
Just like we rehearsed it 0 times. Yes, this is, I guess we're going with the Macabre Monthly because we seem to be doing this monthly. So I think we're going to stick with monthly, Macabre Monthly. But happy Alien Day, Lowell.
Oh yeah, happy Alien Day.
Yeah, it is. I don't get super excited about Alien Day, even though I love the movie.
I love that it's a thing.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I do, I don't know, I don't want to go too divergent here, but there are quite a few holidays in existence. And, you know, I'm glad there's one for Alien. I'm not sure if every movie deserves one, though. What's a movie that you think deserves a day that doesn't have one?
Well, it's funny because I did just watch The Fog for Fog Day, which is 4/21.
I didn't even know there was a Fog Day.
Yeah, so that's because that's when it is in the movie. It's a 24-hour period. But what movie would deserve a day? I mean, any day you watch a movie is a celebration of watching that movie.
Yeah, endorsement.
But I was gonna say maybe the 120th day of the year you'd watch Sallow.
Okay,
whenever that is.
Especially if it's a good year, so you can remind yourself of how shitty things could be.
Yeah.
I guess it had to be a movie that has is somehow, you know, the importance is from the date, you know, I guess because I looked into this, I didn't know why Alien Day was a thing. And it's just because of LV426. Yeah. So I mean, I'm not smart enough to see that, whereas most people are like, oh, it's clear as day.
Yeah.
But I had to Google it, and so I guess that makes sense. I just don't really know a lot of other movies unless they're holidays already that have a date. I don't remember the dates well enough to say what movie needs one, but I don't know.
They'll hit me on the way home.
Yeah, I'm 3:32 in the morning. I've got it, and then if you don't write it down, it's gone. So
or what happened to me when I left last time we did the Craven episode. I got in my car, I drove all the way home, I got out of the car, and I realized he ranked people under the stairs above Scream.
Yeah.
Above Scream.
Yeah. I stand by it. I stand by it.
That's fine. That's it. There are no wrong answers here.
It's true. Yeah. It's true. But it just was it was a movie I saw at such an important point in my own life that I was like, shit. It's just you just right time, right place, right movie, you know? But yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe we'll think of a movie that needs a day. And if you all have any suggestions, we're open to hearing them. On that note, what have you been watching?
Well, I went away last weekend to an Airbnb, and they just had Netflix.
Did you go to an Airbnb to watch movies?
No, I'm not at that level of nerd yet. I think I've got a few more stars on my Alamo Victory badge to go before I hit that point. But it was at night, and
you'll know by your AMC A-list card.
God, that thing is faded and broken. Yeah. Thank God I have
just like my dreams.
Yeah. No, that's Movie Pass you're thinking of.
Yes.
Hey.
Hey-o.
So it was raining at night. My wife went to sleep, and I'm like, see what horror movies are on Netflix now. I didn't even know. And I wound up watching Final Destination 5 again and Rob Zombie's Halloween again. Neither of which I'd seen in a long time. You
say again reluctantly?
I mean,
or no? I don't know. I asked that like a question.
Listen, we could do an entire episode on Rob Zombie, but I'm just like, I don't know.
I would love to do that because I think my arc of opinion in regards to Rob Zombie is fascinating.
Mine as well.
Yeah, I think maybe that's. I'm not going to write that down right now because I will forget it if I don't. But I'm not. But I will remember that. I will try really hard to remember that as an idea. But anyway,
that's fair.
Sorry for interrupting.
No, it's fine. So Rob Zombie's Halloween. I mean, I haven't seen FT5 I think since it came out. I liked it then. I liked it really.
I need to go through those again. I think I stopped at 3, so I need to go back. I need to revisit them. Go do what I did with Wrong Turn, and do a Final Destination.
Yeah, except this will be the right turn because you won't have to suffer through all that garbage again. But I will say the Final Destination movies, even the bad ones, just have incredible kills.
Yeah.
Just top to bottom. There's even a montage of the entire series kills at the end of the 5th one. Oh. And it's in the credits. And it's
is it set to Power Rock from the 80s? Like,
it is set to AC/DC's If You Want Blood. And it is, yeah. That fourth Final Destination, it's just an excuse to string kills together. There are barely any characters. The fifth one isn't bad.
Okay.
The fifth one breaks the horror movie Part 5 rule for me, which says that all Part 5s of horror movies have to be either bad the first time you see them or subpar when you think of them later down the line, if not bad. Like, okay, Seed of Chucky, it needed some time to marinate for a lot of us.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, just Part 5s, not so much. This is graded on a curve, I think the best Part 5 in a horror movie series. And I say that as a huge Nightmare on Elm Street fan.
Yeah.
But it's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
High endorsement.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have any of the DVDs or anything, but a Scream Factory.
I think they're all on. They're on a streaming service. I'm almost positive.
Probably.
I looked this up.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's HBO. Maybe with a little bit of you might have to do a little bit of a combination, a little cocktail of streaming.
Yeah.
But yes,
they're out there.
Yeah, I've got some packing to be doing in the coming months. So nothing's better for packing than movies like that.
Yeah, and just respect to that franchise, because the first one's like a good, thoughtful horror movie, and after that, they're like, all right, we got the good one out of the way. Let's mess some people up. And there are good parts of the sequels.
Yeah.
Not so much 4, but like there are good things about them. But 5 sort of brings it full circle in a couple of ways, because it has great kills, but you don't totally hate the characters and want them to die. Not all of them.
Number 2 is the reason I don't like to drive behind set trucks with loosely held together furniture or any item.
And isn't it great that just traumatized all of us?
Oh yeah, an entire generation of millennials is somehow better for having seen it because they're driving, and their awareness of the lack of ability to pack well.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
It's Marie Kondo. She would not. She would have survived Final Destination.
No, this would not bring her joy. That would not.
No, it wouldn't. Speaking of not being brought joy, Rob Zombie's Halloween. Hey, we should have some kind of counter when I make terrible
transitions.
Jokes. Yeah.
The elegant transition counter.
I can't even. Okay, it's not bad, but I say this about all Rob Zombie's movies, and I'm going to say this when we do the Rob Zombie episode.
Yeah.
All of his movies have things that I absolutely love and things that I just absolutely hate. Usually side by side, usually in the same scene.
Okay.
So I'll watch any Rob Zombie movie, and then I'll watch it again with commentary, because his commentaries are actually pretty great. But Rob Zombie's Halloween, it feels like Tobe Hooper's Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, because it just feels like it's made out of spite. Like Rob Zombie was like, and I think he even told this story, like, they're gonna remake Halloween? Well, I at least gotta make sure they don't screw it up. But then he sits down to do it, and he like makes a Rob Zombie movie. And that's fine. It's fine.
Kind of like
he
tie-dyed it Rob Zombie. Like,
yeah.
I mean, and I think we've talked about this before, that it would be so much better if it was just Rob Zombie's slasher movie and not Halloween, because the first half, to me at least, is not bad. Like, in the world of Rob Zombie movies, it makes a lot of sense and it's very on brand. At the same time, the back half is all trying to kind of double down on the stuff that it didn't do in the first half. And it ends up becoming kind of a Gus Van Sant exercise. And it's done well, but, it's like, why? And I, over the time, I've grown kinder to that movie, only because I think it's a lose-lose situation, and no one, like, that's why they haven't, well, I take that back. They have remade Nightmare on Elm Street, but they remade Friday the 13th, or I don't know if what you want to call it, with Jared Padalecki, whatever that was, with a reboot or.
I liked it.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Yep.
But I think what they've learned with some of these reboots with major franchises, you just can't touch them now. Like, what you need to do is like either make this weird direct sequel. I'm not saying it, Scream, not fucking saying it.
No.
Either make a direct sequel that kind of deviates in its own timeline, or you just reboot something that was irrelevant largely. Like Candyman was not like, it was really important for horror fans, but
But
it
it was more
wasn't.
like a cult movie than a huge mainstream
Yeah,
blockbuster.
exactly.
Same thing with Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah.
Which, also, I rewatched the remake of that. Fantastic. Fantastic.
Just
and
a violent bouquet of excellence.
Yeah, just bloody and hot and gushy and, you know, but like, as we will talk about later, I mean, anyone who remakes Halloween, it's kind of a lose-lose situation.
Yeah.
It just is. But he
the
made
best you can hope for is being entertained.
Yeah. And honestly, I was entertained, and there are some legitimately good stuff. There are some funny moments, but it's a Rob Zombie movie.
Yeah.
Like when I rank the Halloween franchise in my mind, I always forget the 2 Rob Zombie movies. I just do. Because not that I discount them, but I think of them as part of a creator's body of work instead of like entries into a franchise.
Yeah, like a short film that they did for free.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Okay.
And like, I always thought this would be a fun exercise, but it's impossible to do this. I read the Halloween script for Rob Zombie's Halloween when it leaked online. Like they said it was the first draft, but like it was the script, and I'm like, is this real, or is this just like a Rob Zombie fan writing his idea of a Halloween script? But it was the Rob Zombie script. And not to say that it was bad, but it was just like, you know, at that point, we hadn't really thought of Halloween through the lens of Rob Zombie. That script was definitely a helper. But I feel like that script just should have been, like, he should have made his own slasher movie, and Rob Zombie's Halloween just should have been like this script that got passed around the internet. Like, you're not going to fucking believe this.
It would have ended up on like, you know, how did this not get made? Right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, one of those like podcasts that covers stuff that didn't get made. But yeah, I agree. I agree.
Like, there's like a stripper who owns this huge house in suburbia, and they're talking about egg abortions on like page 3. Which is in the movie. Like, that's not Rob Zombie hyperbole.
No,
I let him do his own hyperbole.
But that is very, again, on brand for Mr. Z.
Yeah.
And that egg abortions at breakfast are easily the most pedestrian thing that you'll hear in any one of those scripts. So
yes. What about you? What have you been watching?
Well, because I can't remember shit for fuck. So I'm gonna cherry pick a few things here. I'm gonna start with one I did not like one bit, which is We Summon the Darkness.
Oh, I didn't either.
And
if you do, that's fine.
Yeah,
I know it's got its fans. Not for me.
Totally. And you know, it's not, I don't dislike it for any other reason except it just wasn't my movie. The gear shift midway was so jarring that I didn't recover from it. And I actually liked the first half quite a bit, but just didn't come together for me. And it wasn't anywhere what I thought it was going to be either, for some reason. So yeah, I am not a fan, and less of a fan of Choose or Die.
Which the one to see. It's on the list. But.
Yeah, no, it don't. Well, I guess the best thing about it is 90 minutes. And I said this when I wrote down my thoughts initially, and it's come true, which is it's largely forgettable, and I could not tell you a lot what happens between the week and a half or 2 weeks that I've watched it. There are better movies available easily, like Brain Scan, that tackle even Full Moon's Arcade from like 92 or something like that is a better told story than Choose or Die.
If those are the better versions of this, I'm
not even saying better, like, oh, you know, one's bad and one's not as bad. I'm saying updated. Like these are masterpieces in comparison to Choose or Die. And this is not to besmirch Choose or Die. It's just the idea loses the plot so early on, and it doesn't recover from, and like when someone, like, you know, in The Office when Michael Scott makes a mistake and then he just keeps adding on to that mistake. That's kind of what this movie does, is it snowballs to its conclusion, is it doesn't really ever keeps piling on these ideas, hoping that you're going to forget about the things that it already told you. And in the process, you're just like, no, I really do want to know, like, about that. So yeah, if you really don't have anything to watch, I know what that's like just when you kind of endlessly doom scroll Netflix, hoping for something that triggers enough serotonin to press select. This is possibly okay, but you could do worse.
Do you want to talk about a better movie that you saw?
Yes, I'm getting there. I'm building up. I'm not here to pummel you.
You're just sloughing off the garbage.
Yeah, I'm not 2020ing my list here where I'm just begrudging it with bad news. But even though this movie is not topically better, I did enjoy it a lot more than I thought it would. House on the Edge of the Park. I watched the Severin Blu-ray they just released. Smut has never looked so good. That should be a tagline. If they take it, you don't know anything, just send me some free stuff. But it's actually not a bad riff on Last House on the Left. Even though that's a movie that I don't clamor to watch regularly. I find that the more I watch them, the less I care about some of the parts that I dislike, and I start to just focus on what they're trying to do, which is tell a really fucked up story, make a point about something. And House on the Edge of the Park is different. It's so Italian because it's just different enough from what it's ripping off that you are like, okay, this is a new idea. This is all right. But then you can see like almost exact copy pastes from like other movies right in there. So it's almost like you think, wow, they're on to something new here. And then it's like, shit. No, this is a good exercise in like the multiverse of this film. Like this is a version of it. This is the Italian multiverse version of Last House on the Left. But it's actually pretty good. And in some ways I might even prefer it to Last House on the Left, only because it just is kind of the end in particular. It doesn't do what you think it's going to do, and it is pretty satisfying when it takes a big risk. And I'm being ambiguous by design because I'm not trying to spoil anyone's movie experience. And I think just gonna hit two more. Ghost House. I never saw this before, but this is the Italian Evil Dead. I guess the Evil Dead was released as La Casa and La Casa 2 in Italy. But La Casa 3 was Ghost House, and there's like 4, 5 of these.
Is this like an Amityville situation?
Kind of, but it's Italian, so like you gotta like realize like it's kind of like Zombie 2 or Zombie 3 or hell. Like they're just they're just sequelizing from a marketing perspective, but there's no real connection to the source material. So in this case, La Casa 3 is the Italian name. It goes by Ghost House in the US. It's like if Poltergeist got savagely beaten by House by the Cemetery. Probably is the best way to describe it. And if any of that appeals to you in any way, then you're gonna love Ghost House. It doesn't make any sense, but it doesn't have to, because Italian horror at this time is all about an onslaught of imagery and just overwhelming you with absurdity to the extent that you forget why you're paying attention.
And we love that onslaught.
Yeah, we love it.
That's why we go back to the Italians.
It's a bukkake of just absurdity at this point. But I'm making my way through these movies because I've owned the Scream Factory like double. They have these, those double features they do.
Oh yeah, the one for Slumber Party Massacre 2 and 3 went out of print just when I discovered Slumber Party Massacre 2, which is one of the greatest movies ever.
Yeah,
I have 4 stars on my letterbox for it. I don't know if it's ironic or not ironic, but I love that movie. It just brings me so much joy.
It's so unique, and it is incomparable to anything, even its predecessor. But they have like a couple of these double features that have the Ghost House and some other one, and so I'm making my way through these. But I like Ghost House. I would give it a recommend. It's fucking bonkers, but I feel like we say that about all these movies all the time. So like this is legitimately Italian 80s, like late 80s bonkers, where they were just doubling down on effects and doing the opposite with plot. So
just lots of cocaine flying around.
Yes.
That weird part of the 80s where it's still the 80s, but like it's turning into the 90s, but no one knows what the 90s is yet.
Yeah, like
the Vanilla Ice, as it were, that phase of things.
it's the same Coke that whoever wrote Hudson Hawk was doing when they gave that to Bruce Willis. Or if Bruce Willis wrote that, I don't know. I still love Hudson Hawk though. Anyway, this is not here to talk about movies that should have did better in the box office, but the last one is a rewatch of a movie called Honeymoon, which I actually thought I didn't see. Wow, that's not English. I thought I hadn't seen Honeymoon before, but a friend of mine suggested I watch it, so I did. And then I realized about kind of 3/4 away, I'm like, oh, I have seen this, but it's been since it came out. This is pretty good. I don't know how rewatchable it is. Like, maybe like every 10 years, like I kind of gave it, it's so surprising, but it's the story of a couple on a honeymoon that doesn't really go that well. And have you seen it?
I have.
Okay. What
when
do you
it
think?
first came out, I remember I liked it. It was like a nice little two-hander. I kind of don't know how the woman who made this went from this to the Fear Street trilogy. I mean, good for her.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the same director. And she's Lee Janiak. She's a good director.
Yeah.
But like, it's one of those where like, I don't know how the people at Netflix saw this and went, yes, Fear Street. Like, I was kind of hoping for more indie horror movies from her.
Hear me out. I have a theory.
Okay.
I think when it comes to Netflix, unless they are giving you like Martin Scorsese money, then they are going to tell you what to make. And you are just there to direct. So like, your job is not to be the artist, but be the director. I know that sounds really kind of waffling, but I feel like because they're a content factory, they separate the investment they're making in something like The Irishman, which costs however many hundreds of million or a few million, multiple millions of dollars.
How much does an Uncanny Valley cost?
Yeah, I don't know. How much does bad de-aging cost? Who knows? Who could put a price on hilarious? Who knows comedy? But I feel like because they were kind of taking her from the indie world into this, they may have had some sort of like authority over the direction, to the extent that the movie that was being made wasn't really this director's vision as much as it was just, they were just doing the job.
She's a good director. Yeah. I still believe someone other than her insisted on all those needle drops, at least in the first one, because in the first one, they are incredibly distracted. And I love Offspring. They were my gateway band, but keep them separated in the third one just kind of took me out of it. But that's besides the point. Yeah. Lee Janiak, she did a good job. It's a good movie. It's not really anything like Fear Street.
No.
But it's good.
It's good. It's got good tension. And like one thing, so I was in a movie I'm reviewing for the site, will be up probably next week, for this movie called The Quarry from Uruguay. And it's kind of like Honeymoon in the sense that it's a perfect, like sometimes these indie horror movies do such a good job of taking the best idea for the budget. And instead of trying to make a big fucking movie, they make a really good small movie. And like Honeymoon is, 3 people in the cast? Like maybe 2 people mostly? Or 4 people. There's the 2 couple, there's the couple next door.
It's been a while, but it focuses on a couple.
Yeah, and it's mostly the 2 people, but there's 2 other people that they interact with. So it's a small cast. The idea is so simple. And it's the same with The Quarry, where it's like this group of friends go to this quarry, and there's some secrets between them that get exposed that cause a series of unfortunate events to occur. And even though you've seen it all before, the way it's handled with the tension that build up totally dictates how well the kind of execution is at that endpoint, like that big reveal or the big aha moment that something happens that changes everything, right? So I don't know. That was a long tirade about nothing, but Honeymoon's pretty good. You should check it out. And I watched it on Amazon Prime, so you can watch it there. Cool. So from here, let's talk about some news. So as we are both clearly not hiding our bias for Macabre Daily, as we are both contributing writers there, kind of fun to poke around with some news articles that have occurred over the past month. I'm just going to go in some random order here.
Do it.
First one is horror sale at MVD. I just put this up today. I'm not trying to shamelessly plug myself, but more MVD. If you like really fucked up movies, this is a really good sale. I've bought some of these and I might never watch them again, but I'm better for them. Have you seen a Serbian film?
No, and we've had this conversation before. Wouldn't even say I'm glad it exists, but you know, it's like you went there. Good for you. I'm gonna stay over here.
Yeah. Yeah, but I would say out of all these, Evil Dead Trap, if you liked Malignant, be prepared to have your mind blown by the movie that James Wan ripped off. Because once you see it, you will be like, oh my goodness, not only is this way wackier, but it is far gorier, less coherent, and more fun. Now, I realize these are bold statements, and maybe it's my own negative bias against the aforementioned Malignant, but I highly recommend Evil Dead Trap. Yeah, it is. It is. I'm not even gonna try and lie.
I still can't believe I haven't seen Velocipaster, by the way.
Honestly, I can't either. Actually, I can, because you know what? Sometimes there's movies. There's only so many hours in a day, and there's only so many of those hours that you or I get to watch a movie. You know, so I'm sure Velocipaster is fine, but I don't know. You can buy it for cheap. So I don't watch. I've been doing on this tirade now about not watching trailers, and I'm not telling everyone about it like I just did. But I'm not going to watch this trailer, even though I'm inclined to. Have you seen this? The new
I watched the trailer that came out today for Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Is that what it's called? It's not called this. Okay.
No, that I guess that's the tagline, but it's called Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Okay. What did you think of the trailer?
I'm interested in it. It's got Pete Davidson and Lee Pace and all those wonderful people named at the top.
All these eyes.
I guess they are. I guess it's a horror movie with a lot of like 21st century like slang in it. They make a point to say like toxic and like, you know, like projecting and stuff like that in the trailer to like really make it. I don't know if it's like for this generation or for people who hate this generation and just want to see them like killed, but no matter what, it looks better than the last Black Christmas movie, and that's really all that I'm looking for.
No disrespect to that people involved in that movie, but that movie was awful.
Yeah, it was a nice try. I saw what you're doing, but not really. But
it was also announced and then released within like a 6-month window. So like to me, that bemoans the idea that it was probably not what anyone really intended to make. But anyway, that's a digression.
Yeah. But it looks like a bloody good time, so I'll at least give it a shot. Kind of looks like what a Shudder original would be, which isn't a good or bad thing, but it just seems like one location, kind of like a mystery. Like it's being put out by A24, and I don't know, maybe A24 was like just high from Ty West's X, so they were like, let's grab another horror movie, and I'm curious.
Yeah, I you know, A24, like I'll watch whatever they put out for the most part, because I haven't seen everything, but I also when you said about was written with a lot of like millennial speak or Gen Z speak, let's say, or just
there it is.
Common
That's
vernacular.
the phrase that doesn't make me sound like an old person.
But I feel like that was the same way if you like when we watched movies from the 80s, that like you had like 30-plus-year-old men, between 25 to 50-plus-year-old men writing these scripts, and you know, you can kind of tell it's as they're aging, the quality of their ability to capture the zeitgeist of the youth, you know. But anyway, looks interesting. Looks, I mean, on the very big, I love their like their post their one sheets. They're always interesting. But considering it's Alien Day, FX has given us the series reveal, first look at titles and writers. Cool. That's pretty cool, I guess, that they did that. That's some great Photoshop. But how, on a scale of 0 to 10, how excited are you for the Alien show on FX?
Right now I'm a 5.
Okay.
Not low expectation. Aliens never really been my thing. I really like Aliens. I think Alien 3 tries, and it's an interesting.
Have you read the comic book?
No, I hear it's better, and I love.
I wish I had it. I sent it to a friend. I would have let you borrow it before, but like, it's
okay.
not better. It's very different, and I'm glad they didn't make that movie. Yeah. But it's also very interesting, and I wish they would do that with more scripts that didn't get made. Is like have some comic layering on top of it, so you could at least get the vision. But anyway,
it's funny. I'm more interested in the making and like how Alien 3 was made and how it fell apart.
Yeah,
I think in the actual movie. I enjoy Alien Resurrection. It's just fun. It's the stakes are low. Like it's just a good time. I think maybe like Alien and Aliens cast such a wide shadow over these movies that like this one is just like, no, let's get French and weird.
Yeah. Resurrection has a soft spot because I saw it in the theater. It was the first Alien movie I saw in the theater.
Yeah, me too.
And it wasn't, I liked it at the time because it was like an onslaught of all the things that I would enjoy by like those years, like the early teens maybe, was just like an excessive amount of incomprehensible violence, highly stylized, and like the plot is good enough to let you know what's going on, but not great enough to really tell a good story. Yeah. The whole splicing of stuff, it never sat well with me at the time, but at the same time, I just didn't think it was that interesting. Why would an alien want to be part of a human?
I think it was in love with Ripley. I don't know. But, I remember at the time, even like, I think I was in 7th grade, and I even thought it was dumb. Like, oh, they just cloned her. That's what it was. They just cloned her. The company just cloned her. But now, as a adult-ish, I'm like, yeah, they would just totally just scrape the DNA out of the end of Alien 3 and just, work on it to get what they want for however 100 years. Like, yeah, no, I could totally see that happening. Bob Iger just scraping like DNA out of an acid vat.
Oh yeah. Just there would be a job of people just going to like battlefields, just scraping little bits of DNA so they can. But like I don't remember contextually what date the Dolly cloning happened with the sheep. I feel like that was in the 90s.
Yeah, definitely.
So like, but I feel like Alien Resurrection came out in like the really early 2000s, didn't it?
No, 97.
Okay, so like this is around the time where that was probably news. Yeah. So I feel like, which is really odd that didn't cause more, you would think more movies would have come off of those ideas, but I guess.
Well, I think this might have killed it.
Yeah.
But fun,
Alien Resurrection ruined the entire cloning subgenre.
Don't have resurrection in your title. Just don't do it.
I want to see the other timeline where this wasn't made and we could see all those great movies. But
well, what's interesting is that this was a Joss Whedon script.
No shit.
It was a Joss.
Wait. Resurrection was?
Oh, and you can tell there are like the mercenary characters are basically a dry run for Firefly. You can tell it. It's super obvious.
He does love his ensemble.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff with Winona Ryder bonding with Sigourney Weaver. It's in retrospect, it is very, very Joss Whedon. But what's really interesting is what he said about it in interviews. He's like, except for a little bit at the end, Alien Resurrection basically is the script I wrote. Like, those are my words, those are my character names, those are my locations, but every single decision was not the decision I would have made. It is cast wrong, it is shot wrong, it is scored wrong. The Gary Durden character, the black guy with the dreadlocks, that was, in his mind, it was supposed to be Chow Yun-fat. So, like, stuff like that, which is just fascinating because now I kind of want to read that script and be like, what
could have been?
Yeah. But it's and I think the weirdness of it just makes it a little more entertaining than say the doldrums of Alien 3.
Yeah, I mean, Alien 3 is a pretty dark movie, and it's funny because like if Alien 3 lost the last 30 minutes, it would be a perfect fucking movie. Not better than Alien or Aliens, so I'm not gonna be hyperbolic.
But it would have been fine.
But it would have been like when they lock it in. This is spoiler territory, but like when they lock that alien in that vault, that should be it. That's it. It's not getting out of there. We know that. It knows that. Just fucking leave it and move on. And like I realize that's very anticlimactic, but the build up to that point is so climactic that you're like, wow, you could have ended it there and this would have been a fine story. Now the decision to elongate that doesn't necessarily, listen, I'm okay with that, but the way they ended up doing it makes it less entertaining. You kind of have this climax before the end, and you're not really, it's a misplaced climax, I guess, a premature climax. So yeah, anyway.
And I'm gonna say this I can't believe I'm using this word, but I had headcanon about the Alien movies. And I think the way to do a reboot of the Alien movies.
You should send it to FX because I can guarantee you they're probably going to consider it.
Well, here it is. Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection are the dreams that Ripley has in hypersleep after Aliens. Like they're her nightmares of motherhood after encountering Newt and aliens. So Alien 5 or whatever the hell starts with them opening the pod and her feeling a connection to Newt, and it's like they felt real to a character even if they didn't actually happen, and maybe they inform what happens later on.
But would there be a passing of torches? Because Sigourney Weaver
you know what? I'm sorry, Scream. I'm sorry, 5 Cream. I love you. None of this passing the torch shit. I'm so like, okay, that worked. I'm yelling now.
Yeah, it's yell. Let it out. Let it out.
That worked for Halloween and for 5 Cream, but like, you know what?
I don't mean. Let me pass the torch. Let me restate this. I mean, like, you need Sigourney Weaver to complete that vision of these being a dream, right? You need her to at least close that loop, but the story doesn't have to be about Ripley. In fact, maybe Ripley dies in like the first 10 minutes because, and I don't need to see, like, I know what you mean. I don't want to see a passing of torches, like, oh, you're now the new me.
Yeah.
No, what I really want to see is like close the loop with that person's arc, kill the character, or do whatever you want to do it. Maybe she goes and lives happily ever after with, I don't know where we are in time and space in the Alien series as far as, because it's
hypersleep takes a long time. Yeah.
But yeah, just close her arc, but make it so it's adjacent to whatever the main story is, which is someone else, something totally different, and make it whatever you want. I don't give a shit. But
yeah. By the way, who knew that one of the most influential films of all time was A Nightmare on Elm Street 3: Dream Warriors, and not mentioned in 5 Cream at all. Like at all, but that's what you're doing. It's Dream Warriors. It's Dream Warriors. Halloween 2018 was Haddonfield Dream Warriors, and that's fine. Respect.
You've heard it. The first and last word on the topic. So there's a new Blumhouse movie called Megan with a 3 because we can't seem to stop doing that.
But then if they make it a trilogy, what's it going to be called?
Three and
May 6th. Are they just going to double the?
It'll be Megan's. Or wait till they start using the like powers, like the exponential sign of like Megan third. But anyway, I don't want to rip this movie hard because I know fuck all about it.
Great poster.
Yeah, great poster. Some have called out that this looks like Ashley Olsen or one of the Olsen twins.
Oh, not Elizabeth Olsen. Yeah.
I see it, but I just am more. It looks like an American Girl that's going to kill you.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like that's what's happening here.
It kind of looks like what the Child's Play remake would be if it was A, good, and B, not trying to ape an older franchise. Like it feels like, and granted, I'm getting this from a poster and a description, but like it feels like this is what a movie about a killer doll would be if it came out now. And not Annabelle, because that's not a killer doll movie. It's a demon.
Possessed doll.
Yeah,
but the doll's not actually doing anything. It's more like making things happen.
Yes, the doll's gonna get up to some shit.
So wait, let me proposition you with something. What if we turn back time, shares in the phone booth with George Carlin, and we are going back before the Child's Play remake, and instead of it Chucky being a male, we have like a Megan-esque character. Would that have changed your expectation, your even appreciation of it, assuming that it followed the same beats? They said it was Chucky. It was like
Tiffany.
Clara. Well, no, like a ginger female Chucky.
But are we keeping the same plot as the Child's Play remake, or are we just talking about like a killer girl doll?
I mean, the biggest problem with that plot is that Audrey Plaza is not sold as a mother. She looks like she's more like a sister to this child, and there's no way that they would be living in poverty in an apartment the size they're living in. But that's besides the point. Let's just assume that it's the same story, everything, but just they changed it to be like a Megan instead of a. And wait, actually, what if they just made Megan instead of Child's Play the remake?
Yeah, I mean, I can see that.
Yeah, this is why you don't make remakes, because someone's going to ultimately make a different version of it.
Yep.
Similar enough to be relatable, but different enough to be its own thing.
A lot of speculation here. But at least this doesn't appear to be a cash in.
Yeah, this is a lot of I have nothing about this movie. I know that it is from James Wan, the producer of Annabelle, and Blumhouse, the producer of Invisible Man, which to me spells one movie that was way better than it should have been, and one movie that was not as good as it should have been. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I'll watch it. You know,
I'll watch it. I'm giving it a chance.
You wrote about this, so like, what? Tell me about this.
Press release. I saw the trailer, and I should be seeing it soon.
I like Kathy Siegel.
Katie.
Shit! God damn it! I practiced it 4 times before we did this, and I knew I was gonna mess it up.
You were just gonna call her Peg and just hope that no one knows.
With my hand in my crotch.
Like, for the children, that is a reference to the TV show Married with Children, not any actual act. Anyway, Katie Seagal, great actress, also great singer, playing a country music star. Yeah, she sang all over Sons of Anarchy, which is a great show. One day. It's interesting, but it's about 2 girls who are trying to break into the world of like indie country music, and they wind up at the mansion of Katie Seagal, who is a former country superstar. And I don't know exactly what happens yet, but some weird shit will ensue. There was some Katie Seagal shotgun action in the trailer, so we'll see. And it is directed by Brea Grant, who a lot of people know as like actress from Heroes and horror, you know, the Stylist, Lucky, which I believe she co-wrote. But she directed 12 Hours.
Lucky McKee? Oh,
no. That's it's just Lucky.
Yeah,
it was on Shudder. It was Natasha Kermani's movie, I believe. Anyway, but 12-Hour Shift is a hoot. It is on Hulu. It's a lot of fun, and she knows how to make a movie. So, wonder how this is going to go. I'm optimistic.
I will second your optimism, and looking forward to this one. So again, I have not watched this at all. I love this image, love it. It's very Cronenberg. Have you seen anything about this?
No, I haven't, and I'm fine to go in cold.
Yeah, considering that Cronenberg, he hasn't done anything in the sci-fi horror realm in a while. Yeah. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
I will absolutely hear what he has to say. Like any older directors who want to dive back into their own to the fields that they helped galvanize, I am all there for.
Yeah, I'm 100% gonna. I'm gonna see this when it. And yeah, that's all. That's all you said there. All right. I think that's the extent of the new stuff. So we can get to the reason for our congregation today, if you will. So we probably should have said this at the beginning. I realized we didn't. That's a big miss.
Fine. They can figure it out from our shirts, or if they're still watching, or if the title on YouTube probably. I don't know. He does all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But
and does it fine. But it's anyway, we're doing our top 7 Carpenter movies. You figure we did top 5 Craven, do top 7 Carpenter, because let's be honest, all due respect to the late great Mr. Craven, the filmography of Mr. Carpenter is just vastly better.
And you know what the first 2 are going to be. So we got 5 after that.
Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe you do.
Did you lure me here under false pretenses?
I'm not going to say false pretenses. I'm just going to say there's a reason why this sticky pad note has been turned upside down, because I don't want to bias the surprise or the lack of surprise that might occur.
All right.
So,
all right.
We'll do this in backwards order because that's what you do. What's your number 7?
I feel like your Escape from New York poster is judging me so hard right now. And by the way, we're not just
the wandering eye of Snake Plissken is giving you the wink of acknowledgement.
We're not just doing this horror film.
No.
So we're opening it up to his whole canon.
So ground rules are that there will be overlap, but I'm not going to. I will just acknowledge that whatever I have to say about it, I'll say it when I have my. It's on my list, but I'll acknowledge that it's later on. And everything that Carpenter directed is on the table.
Yeah.
So if there's a commercial that you really liked, please. But yes, that's the parameters.
All right. My number 7 is Escape from LA.
I love that you picked Escape from LA.
Escape from LA.
It's not on my list.
Because, it's his Evil Dead 2. In that it's basically the same movie, but with a bigger budget and just bigger, wackier, just firing on every single cylinder that the first one was firing on, but more so. And I have to be honest, this was the first Carpenter film I saw in the theater.
What a treat.
Yeah.
I'm with you on love for Escape from LA. I think it gets unfairly maligned by too many people for being too similar to Escape from New York, which, listen, it is. But how many sequels, how many slasher movies are just the same slasher fucking killing people? So, like, if we're going to hold all these things accountable, let's be equal in our judgment by saying, if you're going to riff on a great fucking storyline, might as well riff on one of the best original storylines of all time. It's been ripped off by so many people.
Yeah.
Battle Royale was ripped off from Escape from New York. Suicide Squad, Hunger Games, all this shit has been ripped off from Escape. So anyway.
Yeah.
Continue.
It's classic. And some stuff hasn't aged, like there's still CGI.
Peter Fonda's scene has aged perfectly.
Jesus Christ.
Perfectly.
But you got Bruce Campbell.
Surf's up, Snake.
You got Bruce Campbell as the Surgeon General of LA,
which I didn't know he was for the longest time. The makeup is so good, but when you see it, you see it. Like, it's kind of like a magic eye. Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it, kind of shit.
Yeah, and yes, there is Pam Grier as a trans character, which we didn't have the language for back then, but she's a great character, and it's Pam Grier playing the post-op trans person, who is an essential character for Snake to run into. You got Steve Buscemi.
Yep.
You
take on the Ernest Borgnine role.
Yep. You've got when
I say that Escape from LA is a carbon copy of New York, I'm not kidding.
No, I know.
But at the same time,
Evil Dead 2.
But it's been LA-ified. Whereas, that's what makes it great. And whereas New York, New York actually didn't have the budget, as you said, to be New Yorkified as much.
Yeah.
LA had the budget for a CGI tidal wave where Peter Fonda and Snake Plissken all but cold hands as they surf together.
It's like the Crow City of Angels, where it's like the second one is worth a watch for the ideas and the look of it. Not a good movie, but just fascinating that it's the first movie with a different sheen to it.
Okay.
And that's interesting.
That's enough for me.
Yeah, and sometimes that's all you need. I had friends in college who had a punk band called Cuervo Jones. And honestly, I didn't even see Escape from New York until college. And when I watched it, and I know this colored my reaction, but I was like, this is Escape from LA. And that's fine. But I just
lost all my viewers. I realize.
But I know.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Hi, Mom. But I remember thinking,
nice of you to join.
The ending of Escape from LA, and I'm not going to ruin it, but it is awesome. And it echoes the ending from Escape from New York, which people say is iconic. And that's great. But the ending of Escape from LA is just that ending on steroids. And it works. It's a fucking cartoon, and it's great.
The love for Escape from LA cannot be too little. I will champion that movie all the time. I actually have an Escape from LA version of this, but you all can't see it. I'm not turning it around. But Yeah, I think it's unfairly criticized for being unoriginal when it's aping on its own. You know, how can you call someone remaking their own movie unoriginal? But anyway, I digress. My number 7 is Cigarette Burns, the Masters of Horror episode that he did for season 1, which I have to preface by saying I was so excited when I heard about Masters of Horror because I was old enough to be working where someone would pay me money to do things. And I convinced my mom to get Showtime just so I could watch it. So I would pay for it. And so we had this arrangement so I could watch it. And Carpenter's episode blew my fucking mind. To this day, I still think it's one of the best just horror stories. And it's pulled from so many different things, but ultimately it feels very original in this kind of haunted reel. You know, it's essentially what it is. It's a haunted film stock story. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't. I always heard it was one of the best ones.
It is, and yeah, I like to kind of bookend the rest of that lovely nostalgic story. That was really disappointing at a relatively young age in the quality of those movies. Over time, I've come to love them a bit more, but I think that's largely me convincing myself to like something because I invested in a disgustingly expensive box set of them. So like, I like to look at it, so I justify the reason. But anyway, Cigarette Burns is just really fucking creepy too. And it's probably the creepiest John Carpenter movie next to something else on my list, a couple other things on my list. But it's just really fucking good. Like, I don't want to spoil anything about it. It's about a person that's invested. It's kind of like 8mm meets haunted film stock. And the visuals, everything about it, it's surreal. It's got dream logic. It's high recommend. And I think you can watch Masters of Horror episodes like occasionally on streaming services. So they currently do not have a US release or US physical release outside of DVD. You can, or if you have a region free, there's a European release. But aside from that, I think unless you have Showtime Unlimited or whatever the fuck their streaming service is, I'm not trying to.
Showtime anytime.
Yeah, pay us. We're not, something time anytime. But anyway, Cigarette Burns. What's your number 6?
What is my number 6? I think I know what it is. Oh,
to the tape.
To the picture I took on my phone of the list that I made.
To the picture I took of the list I wrote.
My number 6 is Big Trouble in Little China.
Higher up,
because it's the type of movie I saw bits and pieces of it growing up, but I finally watched it in full at Alamo Drafthouse a few years ago. And I remembered bits and pieces, but it's one of those, like, I'd never seen it like all together. Like I always said, I've seen Ghostbusters.
It is kind of like a fever dream.
Yeah, but like I've seen Ghostbusters I saw Ghostbusters at least 20 times before I saw it in full, because you always caught it on
the beginning or the end.
Yeah, or like chunks of it on HBO. And it was one of those things. But like watching it for the first time, I started watching it like something's off here. Like there's something weird about the tone. Like maybe Carpenter needed another writer or another draft or whatever it is. But then you get later on into it and it's like, oh no, that's exactly what it's supposed to be. It is like a total, and Kurt Russell doesn't get props for this at all. And now Chris Pratt is the new Kurt Russell, because in terms of like the roles that he's doing, but it's like everything Chris Pratt is doing.
I would love to see him do Chris Pratt do, like, I think this was, I don't remember if this was a rumor or something I read online or something I made up because I read something similar to it online. But that Chris Pratt was like potentially in the position to be Jack Burton in a remake or a reboot.
Yeah, I think it was The Rock that they're talking about. But
no.
Yeah, no, that's wrong.
Anyway,
like The Rock, but that's wrong casting. But
yeah.
But anyway, Big Trouble in Little China is just taking the action hero, the 80s action hero, the John Wayne Western action hero, and just turning it on its head completely. Jack Burton he's one of Kurt Russell's best characters, maybe one of the best characters in all of genre, because he is just a cipher. he's just an idiot, and the whole movie is happening all around him. I'd love to do a drinking game watching that movie where you take a shot every time he's confused. You will die of alcohol poisoning.
Accept the challenge.
But it's just like, and Kurt Russell's totally game. He's like, yeah, I'll wear the lipstick. I'll miss the knife throw. I'll like sound like a total idiot. And he's not even the main character. It's his friend. Like, he's the Han Solo, and his friend Dennis, who's also in Prince of Darkness. Yes. He's like the Luke Skywalker. It's like his story. And like Kim Cattrall's like his girl Friday, like everyone is smarter than him. And there's this whole like Byzantine involved plot that like makes Pirates of the Caribbean sound like Waiting for Godot, because it's just like Pirates of the Caribbean. How much has to happen in those movies? I'm exhausted 30 minutes in. We're here for Jack Sparrow. I don't give a shit about the gold and what it does, whatever. But there's this whole morass of plot just happening around Jack Burton. And it's just him just stumbling through it. And it's great.
I'm holding all of my commentary because this is higher up and I'll share my thoughts. But
yes. It's a nice restraint.
That's everything you just said. Yeah. My number 6 is In the Mouth of Madness.
Oh, that's my number 5.
Okay. So In the Mouth of Madness is fucking great. I mean, it is.
And on to my number 4.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to read Sutter Kane. I wanted to read a Sutter Kane book when I first saw In the Mouth of Madness. And it's, I don't know, to me, like, there's so much that works about it. And it's, I think the reason why we had to bump this from 5 to 7, I think has a lot to do with the fact that John Carpenter has this magic about him where he hits more than he misses. And when he hits, it's not just because he's really great. It's because everything that he's put together works so well, sometimes so well that people won't get it for another fucking decade plus. And in this case, In the Mouth of Madness is that film where it still doesn't get enough credit for being as original or interesting as it is. It has a great performance from Sam Neill, who fucking loses it.
Oh, yeah.
And the visuals, like the special effects and the creature effects that are done, like the only complaint I have about the movie is I want more of that. I wanted more of that to show up, but I also realized in withholding it, that's part of the draw. Yes, yeah. Like that's the draw. And like, that's what is the genius behind what Carpenter can do. And that to me is a perfect example. And I dare say like it's the last of his great movies.
Yep.
Because after that, we get things like Vampires, Ghosts of Mars, which I've been meaning to go back to Ghosts of Mars. No spoilers here, but that's not on my list. I'm pretty sure it's not on yours. So
I watched it recently. It's fine. It's interesting, but not on the list.
Yeah. And but In the Mouth of Madness is something that to this day, you can't compare it to anything else. It is wholly unique, but yet it feels eerily similar to things that you've seen or ingested in some way. And I think there's something to it. Even the person that plays Sutter Kane, the casting is spot on. Like, it's just a great movie. And this is your number 5, what else you have to add?
I mean, I didn't quite get it the first time I saw it.
No.
For a lot of other people.
And also the ending doesn't really make sense the first time you see it. Like, I don't really know what just kind of happened.
Yeah, like what? Like, God, what's happening? But, having become familiar with H.P. Lovecraft, of course you know what's happening. And I have to say, I usually don't like the kind of horror movie where it's like, I'm not going to ruin the ending, but like, it's like, yeah, it's fate. There was nothing you ever.
It was inevitable.
There was nothing you ever could have done. I always thought that's kind of like, I guess the kid version of that is Never Ending Story, but it's still kind of like hopeful in a way because like he can and does, but like the whole like this is and I mean I love Hereditary, but like Hereditary has a sense, and like Ari Aster even said like there's nothing they could have done. And like I don't know about that, but like I don't want to watch my characters just walk into a meat grinder, but this is exactly what that was supposed to be. And it works. Yeah. It's just, I mean, my favorite color is blue. Like, god damn. Come on.
It's creepy.
Yeah.
Like it's like again, I take back what I said about being the last Ray Carpenter because Cigarette Burns I think came out after Mouth of Madness.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
But like I mean, it is an hour-long episode versus a feature-length film. Yeah. So, but take that as you will.
We'll trade it for Vampires.
We didn't.
Which may be on your list. I
hate James. It's not on my list. I hate James Woods. Love Vampires.
Yeah.
There's a lot I don't like about it. Like there's a lot that hasn't aged well, but at the same time,
it's a fun watch.
Yeah, but when he calls him Padre, I can't help but laugh and think that's hilarious. But anyway, going on about In the Mouth of Madness.
It's just great. It's creepy.
Yeah, it's creepy. And like it's the last of his greats, but like it's also really fucking creepy. Like the part with the boy and the bicycle.
Played by a young Anakin Skywalker. That's
Hayden
Christensen.
Wow. I almost called him Hayden Panettiere. It's both Haydens. But
close.
Yeah, like it's just really, really fucking great. Like I started with, it's not much more to be said. But anyway, that was your number 5. So on my number 5, which is Prince of Darkness.
Okay. Not on my list, but
see, this is why this is fun because I will if we had done this a year ago, I would not have had Prince of Darkness on my list. But I've watched it a total of 4 times in my entire life. And on the most recent watch, it clicked to me that this is probably his most underrated film. Because it is so not like anything else that has really ever existed in the horror genre. The premise of there being a god gene or like god DNA that
like science and magic, like science and hell mixed
and it's treated so seriously and with such respect to that material that like the way Carpenter does it, like in the same way Big Trouble in Little China leans into its absurdity but does so without being disrespectful. Prince of Darkness leans into the absurdity, but treats it with a seriousness that gives it a lot of weight. And as I've gotten older, and the more, because I rewatch it like every 5 years, it seems like. And every time I rewatch it, something else becomes apparent. And this, like most recent time, I just realized how direly fucked the situation is. Like, talk about an ending that is, I don't like ambiguous endings. There's a kind of blanket statement. I find them to be usually largely cop-outs.
But Carpenter's ambiguous endings.
Yes.
Carpenter does a good fucking ambiguous
because it's not ambiguous. It is ambiguously intentional in that it closes the story, but it leaves you with something to think about. Versus it doesn't end the story. So now you have to think about what's happening. Like it's kind of like the end of The Lodge. That's not a good ending. Because it's literally the equivalent of edging in relation to watching a movie.
I mean, you know what happens though.
But there's like 3 or 4 potential options that could happen. The thing is, there's no reason to leave you hanging on 4 options. If the options were vaster, then
that's fair.
Then it would be reasonable to leave you. But but it's true, but there is like with Prince of Darkness, the way it ends is you get closure on your story, but you're left with something to nibble on. And the something you're left to nibble on becomes more dreadful the more you think about it.
Oh, that last shot. God damn.
And the way, like, the way people become so... it just blends so many things that are clearly borrowed from other genres. Like, it has zombie elements. It has demonic possession elements. It has, like, kind of the horde, like, Assault on Precinct 13, like, siege kind of, feeling to it. But it doesn't necessarily feel like any of those other movies as much as it feels like something that's taking all of those things taking the foundation of those things and bring them all together in something different. And it's just the most original of Carpenter's films. It's probably the least understood, not because it's hard to understand, but just because I think people see it once and they're just kind of write it off because it's very anticlimactic in regards to things like, other movies that I'm sure are going to appear on this list. So yeah, I stand Prince of Darkness all the time. I look forward to rewatching it now. And Scream Factory's 4K disc is the benchmark for that film. So don't buy anything less. Although Scream Factory, please do better jobs on your Atmos tracks. They need more. But anyway, very grateful. Not looking gift horse in the mouth, as they say. It's a fucking weird saying. So are we number 4 for you?
My number 4 is Christine, which I just rewatched last night. Still holds up. I feel like Christine doesn't really, people like it, but it's not up there with like the greats. And it's not, I mean, it's number 4. There's 3 ahead of it. It's not one, it's not.
But how many films does he have? Like,
Yeah, no, but it's up there, and people don't talk about it like it's
no,
up
they
there.
don't.
And I always theorize that it's because people think of it more as a Stephen King adaptation than a John Carpenter
And
film.
very few of those are considered great.
Yeah, and this one is, and it's, yeah. I mean, there's, of course, it's like filthy with Stephen King isms, including even like the old timey names of some of the characters. But watching the film, it's a John Carpenter film. It's all there, and like I think I even like it more than the book, because the movie never gets into why the car is evil. It's just evil, and the book's like it's like the ghost
Never
or the guy, and like you're fine. But like, you know, that's the Lovecraftian angle that he plays up in the movie. But it's just like John Carpenter makes rock and roll scary. He makes the radio, and in this and in my number 3, the radio is fucking terrifying.
Oh, now I know
yeah. I mean the diegetic sound, which is like the
By the way,
sound.
this is gonna be fun because like I think we are gonna be way off on a few things in our top ones, which is great.
I'm already afraid. I am very afraid. But it's okay. But the he makes the music and the sound in the movie, like the diegetic sound, which is just the sound of the characters in the movie here, is terrifying. Like of course it has a score. It's a John Carpenter movie, but there are times where I forget there's a score because the music
too, isn't it?
Yeah, him and Alan Howard.
Yeah.
Again, but like
dynamic duo right there.
Yeah, the way he uses 50s rock and roll in this, every like this is almost like the anti-Fear Street in that regard, because every single pop song is intentional and it hits and it gives you chills, and it's just fucking great. And come on, man, show me like
this is not on my list. This is not on my list.
Okay.
But everything you just said has made me want to watch Christine sooner rather than later. I've only seen it once, and I watched it, and I loved the way it ended, but for some reason I was cold on almost everything else. It's not that I didn't like it either. I did like it. I just wasn't overly enthused about it.
It's a killer car.
Yeah, I think, but I also think that it's one of those movies where like my initial perception of what it's supposed to be, I don't really know what a killer car movie should be, because it's not really a genre I don't kind of gravitate towards. My expectations are so out of whack where like I don't know what I'm expecting. So I think now revisiting it might be a good opportunity to see what I really think about it.
And it's also kind of a possession movie too, you know, and that's the thing. The performances are, everyone plays it straight.
Yeah, no, there's some pretty like harrowing, like the scene where the car, like where they first see it lose its shit for the first time. They're in the garage. I feel like I realize I'm describing something that is fucking half of the movie, but like one of the first times the car like things start to go haywire. They're in this garage and it's dark and he's realizing the car is possessed, and like it's just a really good moment of tension between the situation. But anyway,
no, it's just it's very good. And I don't know, maybe that to me would be his most underrated film, because we need to talk about it more, because it's still in his early 80s period.
Yeah,
you know, it's still solid.
Yeah, I think that's definitely in contention along with Prince of Darkness for most underrated. Like those, easily.
Totally.
All right, I want you to hold on to something for number 4. Just
God, it's your number 4.
It's
all right.
Number 4 is the thing.
All right. Why is it your number 4, Matt?
Okay, I realize that there's a giant fucking illuminated poster behind you.
It's really beautiful.
Be number 4, but I love this movie, but I love a lot of Carpenter movies. Like, I think it feels, I hate saying that Carpenter is one of my favorite directors, because I feel like that's everyone my age's fucking statement. But when you really,
good
yeah, but when you really
movies.
peel back the layers of ego and just get to the point, is that that's the truth. He's made some of the most impressionable movies on me of all time. And The Thing is a movie that I have an interesting story about. The Thing. It was not one of my favorite Carpenter movies for a very long time when I was younger. Like, because I saw it and I was like, these are cool effects. But I had a math teacher in 7th grade who was the only person who could help me understand math. Math's not my strong suit. It has never been, still isn't. But I had a teacher who was really fucking into, like, who was really good at helping me understand this. But the reason why is because he loved horror movies. And so I could bond with him at like a level that, like, at 7th grade, I was like, shit, this guy's fucking awesome. The Thing was the movie we talked a lot about. And, like, to me, like, that gave me an appreciation thing I didn't really have before. And, you know, sometimes when enough people tell you a movie's great, even though you may not have liked it the first time or kind of lukewarm on it, you give another shot. And you go back, and obviously you're influenced by people that tell you things. So, like, clearly, you know, it's up to everybody else to influence us. But I started to really fucking like it. And every time we watch The Thing, it just gets better and better.
Yeah.
And there's so much to appreciate about it, but all of it's been said. So I'm not going to even try and, you know, repeat those words. Just suffice to say that it's better than the original. It's one of the few movies that's better than its source material, in my opinion. And fight me, if you will. It's some of the best effects work of all time. And it still holds up every fucking time you watch it. It will never not hold up because nothing about it, save for the periodic elements that are bound to time, are irrelevant. It will always be relevant. It will always be interesting. And the Petri dish scene is a masterclass in tension. It is. And again, I know this is number 4.
The whole fucking movie is a masterclass.
The whole movie is, but like, and an ambiguous ending. The movie ends, but the story ends, but you don't get conclusion. So I'm going to shut up about it because I know it's higher up on your list.
I'm not going to say where it is on my list, but I will say, throwing the hammer down, it is John Carpenter's best movie. It is. Like, from a technical standpoint, it is. And yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about it that hasn't been said. If you haven't seen John Carpenter's thing, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Stop this. Stop your horrible choices and go watch The Thing.
It's like an intervention for watching good movies, which actually could be a thing. All right. So what's your number 3?
Oh, I don't even have to look. My number 3 is The Fog.
Yeah, I figured as much.
Yeah. Which
Bodega Bay.
Yeah, I mean, I even just watched it the other day for Fog Day. You know, it's unfortunate that this came out between Halloween and The Thing, because it's like it's the 3rd best Carpenter movie, and it's one of the best horror films of the 80s, and it's incredible. And the first 10-15 minutes, they're perfect. No, they're perfect. That first nighttime segment of this movie is just, I was saying he does great diegetic sound in movies, but nighttime where nothing is happening is chilling and intriguing.
It's also his scores, though. Like, his scores are like, the score for The Fog is a perfect matchup of, I mean, whenever Carpenter did his own scores, there was it makes sense that he would be the best person to score his own movie. But the music is so it's like ambient with a little bit of a vibe.
Yeah. But it doesn't even really kick in till the end. Like, there's barely any. There's radio static in the beginning. There's like horn honking. There's like a little bit of stuff in the beginning, but like the first night section of The Fog is just like atmosphere and like fog horns, and like you really feel like it's just night in the middle of nowhere, and it's terrifying. And yeah, the rest of the movie is great too. It's a fantastic ghost story. You know, some stuff's a little wonky on a rewatch, but those effects, like, he makes you scared of fog. I mean, my God, it's just great.
This isn't on my list, and to me, this is my least favorite Carpenter movie.
Have you seen Memoirs of an Invisible Man?
Well, actually, I take that back. You're right. Of the
You
well-regarded.
prefer this to? I was gonna say,
Of the
if you
well-regarded.
prefer vampires to this, I am leaving right now. It's okay to like a movie.
But I find vampires more entertaining than The Fog. The thing to me is The Fog. I maybe I need to rewatch it.
Yes, you do.
Maybe I do. Maybe my opinion will change. Maybe it won't. But it's kind of boring to me.
Okay.
It's kind of boring, but that's okay because I still respect for what it does really well, and I agree with everything you just said on the tension and the atmosphere. It's not me.
Not your thing. I thought my hot take was going to be the fact that I bumped They Live off for Escape from LA, but which I thought
okay. They Live's not on mine, even though I love it. And again, this is why like you could do a top 10 and still have a couple that you had to leave out.
That's true.
But I was debating on They Live in its place because I really love what the story of They Live, but again, it's also not super interesting.
Yeah,
throughout.
For long stretches, it is boring.
The parts that work, I'm here to kick ass and chew bubble gum.
Which you don't think that would work in any semi-serious film, but it does here because it's Roddy Piper sells it.
Yeah. But him and Keith David fighting, one of the most realistic fights you'll ever see on film. But again, didn't make it.
Yep.
All right. My number 3 is Escape from New York. I mean, Snake Plissken is the ultimate badass. Like Russell and Carpenter is as good as peanut butter and chocolate, as far as I'm concerned. They don't miss. And Snake and what I love so much about Escape from New York is, even though I love Escape from LA, and I actually saw it before I saw Escape from New York, to me, Escape from New York has something that LA doesn't, in that it's grittier and grimier. And LA has a polish, which again, maybe that's the aesthetical choice. Like, I don't know how intentional that is, but there's something about New York that really feels like this might be like what New York looks like if that were to happen. Because you wouldn't see massive buildings. You would see buildings, but they wouldn't be lit up.
Yeah. It would look like downtown St. Louis.
I think Isaac Hayes is a far more believable protagonist than Cuervo Jones.
Oh yeah.
Also but there's just that's the genesis, I think, of cool in regards to like what I view as like one of the coolest movie characters of all time. I will say I think Snake Plissken is the coolest movie character of all time, but another one of Kurt Russell's is second to that, very close second. But to me, Snake Plissken and the way he interacts with everybody in the world around him, and his no fucks attitude, nothing bothers him. The weapons are cool. In fact, LA does have better weapons, like the stuff they give Snake, his little dual pistols. Those are fucking cool. But it's just, that's the best way to describe Escape from New York. It's just a cool fucking movie. You're just watching this thing like, man, this is.
And the plot's not complicated. It's in and out.
You've got Donald Pleasance
as the British
president. Which
yeah.
But we had who was the I forget the actor who's in
LA. Cliff Robertson, Uncle Ben from the Raimi Spider-Mans.
With great power comes great responsibility guy. But Escape from New York is just tops for me. It's got Ernest Borgnine, Lee Van Cleef,
Harry Dean Stanton.
And even though Lee Van Cleef being replaced by Stacey Keach isn't the worst thing in the world, like Stacey Keach does an all right job, but like, man, it's just so fucking cool.
It's stacked.
It's
got Tom Atkins in a small role.
Yeah.
And it's
actually, that's right. And Stacey Keach is Tom Atkins' role. I take that back.
Is he? No, he was Lee Van Cleef.
Yeah, you're right.
Not the exact same character, but like the same character.
Yeah. Well, that's my number 3. Your number 2.
My number 2 is The Thing. Don't know what else I can say about it. One of the greatest horror movies ever made. It's not even a perfect film, but it's a 99.
Yeah. Okay. Wait, so consider there's no more to say on it. Let's throw a little speedball in here.
Yeah.
What is your thoughts on The Thing, the prequel?
It's fine. It's inoffensive, which compared to a lot,
neutral.
It's you know what, it has a lot of reverie for the original, which I know a lot of these remakes have, but it doesn't crap all over it. It's not slavishly devoted to the original, and it's not like no one's in it just to make a buck.
Yeah,
you know, it's like they're
and they didn't make any. I think that movie tanked terribly.
I think it did okay, but it's not, you know, there's no sequel to it. But like, you know, when you hear that there's another iteration of the thing that takes place within the world of John Carpenter, you're kind of like, just
what else are you gonna do?
Just be better. I know he wants his check, but like, don't fog this up. That's an inside joke because the remake of The Fog was so terrible they should have called it The Fart. Just one of the worst horror remakes of all time. So when they say a Thing remake, well, it's actually a prequel. It's fine. It does the job, and it doesn't anger you, and people give it their all. So
yeah, I agree. It does everything a good sequel should do, despite it being a prequel. Doubles down on everything that worked before, tells the same story more or less. Obviously, the biggest glaring offense is the use of CGI, but at the time it was new, it was exciting.
I didn't even mind that so much. I mean, look, yeah, the creature effects of the Thing are some of the best ever, but you don't need to know about any of that stuff to rate how good the prequel is.
Fair. Anything else on the Thing? No. Just pretty fucking good.
Just great ending, and yeah, I don't usually like ambiguous endings either, but it's a perfect ambiguous ending.
Yeah,
I love it.
It was Child's. Sam.
I don't know. It's
actually,
look at the breath.
I think it was.
McCready.
McCready, yeah, it was McCready. So my number 2 is your number 5, I think, which is Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh, thank fuck. We just averted disaster here, people.
There's no way I was gonna. Well, first of all,
I don't know.
There's still plenty of things for number 1.
Just not the thing.
But let me explain this. I saw Big Trouble in Little China so many times without realizing I'd seen it. Like, and not so much I'd seen it in segments, but just like I watched it so many times when I was younger. I never remember what it was until eventually I reached an age where I watched it like and cognitively knew I was watching it. And it's perfect. It is I'm not saying it's perfect objectively. I'm saying for what it is perfect. Everything from the quips that Kurt Russell says, you know, while he's just talking to fucking nobody, the reflexes, it's all in the reflexes, like everything just works. And it's funny. It's never not funny. It's humor that like I think I judge someone's sense of humor by their ability to laugh at the scene where Kurt Russell goes to the massage parlor. God, if you can't laugh at something in that 15-minute span, like, I don't know if you have a pulse, but it's just so well done and it's so perfect. And the way it ends, like, it just ends with like, yep, well, Jack Birkin goes on to the sunset, the Pork Chop Express, you know what he always says, like, everything about it just oozes with amazingness. And to this day, it's the only movie I wish had a sequel. Like, it's the only movie I said, God, I wish there was another one of those. I wish it was made like 2 years after it. But like so many of Carpenter's films, it didn't get the appreciation it deserved until way after that shit mattered. And while I know that he's done quite well on, you know, his, you know, I'm not pitying John Carpenter so much to say as
he's fine.
He's doing fine because of his work, but I do really appreciate. I think what makes him so endlessly enjoyable is that his just films seem to get better as you get older, and there's something about Big Trouble in Little China that just doesn't hold anything back, and I love that about it. I love that it is literally. It is West meets East. Like, it is done with reverence for the material. It is not done to. It could easily have been the Indiana Jones Temple of the Doom style version of like how West does East.
But that's exactly what it is. It's flipping that on its head. It's like the whole the
It has
element,
way more respect for the Eastern elements than it does for the Western ones.
yeah, and a lot of those movies was like a white guy going into a foreign land and
Last
murdering
Samurai.
murdering the population, like fucking Rambo.
Yeah.
Even. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
like it's not even like white savior stuff. It's like I'm the guy with the muscles and I'm gonna kill everyone. But in this one, yeah, Jack Burton's got muscles, just not up here. And everyone else is smarter and more capable. And you have to wonder sometimes, are they gonna kill him? Are they gonna kill him?
But he's,
I don't know.
you know, you said it really well. You said he just the movie happens around him.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely true. And that's what's so entertaining about it, because he is the most approachable character in any movie ever made in this genre. Like in the genre of cult, exploitation, horror, sci-fi, fantasy, his most relatable character, because he reacts how almost anybody else would react for the most part. Like, save for the ending, which they set up perfectly well in the beginning. Like Carpenter's not, you know, later work aside, the 80s work of Carpenter is so finely tuned to not, there's very few elements that are not accounted for. So finding plot holes is, it's not impossible, but it's not easy.
Yeah, they're tight.
But just, yeah, I can't say enough about Beichon and everything about, I love it. Like, I have a Drew Struzan poster of the, you know, that one sheet, which I still think is the best, one of the best one sheets of all time. And it's my comfort food. It's the movie I put on when I need to just feel good and have a good time and forget everything else. That and Waxwork, which is supremely underrated. Yeah. I could say more about Big Chimo China, but to the inevitable, what's your number one? And maybe we do it at the same time and see if it's the same movie.
Okay.
So just do it on three. 3, 2, 1. Halloween.
Vampires.
Is it really vampires?
No, it's not.
I wish it was.
Well, now I'm offended. No, it's Halloween.
Yeah, it's Halloween. But because why is Halloween the obvious choice?
Because it's the Seinfeld of horror movies.
Wait,
and
explain that.
And by that I mean it's nothing. It's as a piece of content. People forget there weren't movies like this before. This is the first real slasher film. It's just a guy walking around, stalking people. You have reason to believe he's dangerous. And then shit happens. And that's it. That's it. It's like there aren't many locations. It's just in suburban homes. And it's fucking genius. Like, and even John Carpenter's like, oh, I can't rewatch it because I wish I did this. You know who wishes that you couldn't go back and do the things that you want to do? Everyone. Yeah. Everyone. Yeah, maybe there's like
CC everyone who's Spielberg and George Lucas wrong.
Yeah, look, we see the paper leaves on the ground in a few places. We see some palm trees when it's supposed to be Illinois. Doesn't matter. Halloween is a machine that is built to scare the fucking shit out of us. If it was a human body, John Carpenter would be the brain and Deborah Hill would be the heart. Because, I mean, those teenage girls, I don't know how much John Carpenter had to do with making me care about them. I think a lot of that was Deborah Hill's dialogue and her characterization. And that's fine. Like, they're one of the great teams in horror. I mean, she worked on The Fog as well. But there's no reason. There's no backstory. There's no blood. There's no mask even. He doesn't even like. It's just like it's nothing. You project what you're afraid of onto it because it's nothing. It's about people being stalked by a void that is beyond reason, beyond anything. And you know, when I first saw it, like, of course I saw it after I saw a bunch of sequels and a bunch of other franchises.
Oh, it wasn't your first in the series?
No.
Oh.
No, I think except for the Saw franchise and maybe the Leprechaun franchise, I didn't watch any of them in order. Any of my favorite franchises in order. So when that ending happened, I was like, oh man, you're not even gonna like pretend you thought he was dead? Like, that's kind of lazy. It's a 6-year-old kid. No. But then you realize that like that last scene, that's not a plot point. Like the end of that movie is Was that the boogeyman? Yes, it was. And then after that, it's just like a tone poem for like 30 seconds with some score. And it's like, doesn't matter if he's dead or alive, he's gone, but he's also everywhere. I mean,
bleak.
But like, wonderful.
It is.
Who else has made a film that made you leave the theater like that, or turn off your TV? Like it lingers and it stays with you.
I mean, I agree with that. Like, I think the reason why I put it as my number one has a lot to do with the fact that it was the first horror movie I remember seeing, and it scared the piss out of me. So much so where I used to, my departed Nana, rest in peace, was like my enabler for horror. She would always take me to the video store and didn't give a shit how old it was, whatever I wanted to rent. She no judgment, and I would watch that shit. And it came to a point where you get a little older, you get a little more curious, and I was horror curious, so I started to venture into that part of the video store, and I rented Halloween. And the first movie I remember seeing that was a horror movie was Halloween, and I remember it fucked me up so much that I used to see the mask in the hallway. So kind of give you a visual tour here. Living room, and then in the living room there's a kitchen over here, and then there's this hallway. Kind of describing a dick and balls for some reason, I feel like. But down the hallway there's a series of bedrooms, and my bedroom that I used to stay in at her house was all the way at the end. But she didn't care that I would stay up late. She just cared that I would turn off the fucking lights so that we wouldn't run up an electric bill. Classic. So I had this routine that I had to build because of how shit pissed terrified I was of like seeing Michael Myers like in the dark. That I used to like run this route of like hitting all the lights I had turned on and doing so in enough a way where I would end up like at the end of the hallway with no lights on, safe, right? This is I'm gonna reasonable age. I'm 22. I'm just kidding. This is like 6'5" area. So yeah, it fucked me up. And I always like it's endlessly rewatchable to me. Like I can't, it's simple enough. I liked your analogy, and I'm gonna add my own to say that like really good chefs will always say like it's really hard to do the easy things well. Like it's really hard to make really good like fried chicken or like really good like mac and cheese, like things that should be simple end up becoming difficult to do really, really well. I think that without really knowing it, again, Bob Clark made the first slasher movie with Black Christmas. No, don't at me, it's fucking true. Yeah. But Halloween and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, is a slasher in some regards, but not the way we define it now. But Halloween created, but regardless, Halloween is the Facebook. Halloween is the Facebook of slasher film. It is the version that came out of two other efforts that did well enough but didn't really nail it. And it's so endlessly just good. Like it's so perfectly simple, but in its simplicity, it's done so well. The music works. Michael Myers as a character works. The performances work. I mean, Dr. Loomis is fucking, you can tell he's not right. Like you can tell he's like, there's just, and you don't even need to know, you're cold open, not cold open. You are cold open, I guess, with the flashback. But like even after that, you're dropped into this 15 years later, him in the car with the nurse. Yeah, and like you can just tell how fucking he believes that. Like his performance is so good, you're like, this guy fucking believes whatever he's saying. And the person who's hearing it, you can tell that it's a good performance because she's like, damn, this guy knows some shit. Maybe I should watch out for this guy, like, and just the way everything happens. And then the more you learn about how it's made and like how low expectations are, and the way it caught fire, like there's so much to love about it. But at its core, it's a really simple story told very, very well. And it has everything works about it. And it's serendipitous that it did, because there's so many movies that came out around that time that are similar in nature that aren't as good. And Carpenter nailed it. And it birthed, it is Halloween franchise is the first franchise I really had an adoration for. It's still my favorite franchise of all of them, even though it has the least amount of films that I think are great. It's not even in any regard, but because Halloween is because the first one's so good. Like Friday the 13th is great, but it is not Halloween. Friday the 13th Part 3 is the closest that the Friday the 13th franchise ever got to being anywhere near Halloween, and it's not even
Parts 3.
Yes,
Part 3.
I don't mean like I mean like as good as Halloween, not like similar in tone and delivery. But I think 3 is the best Friday the 13th movie. It's the closest to being like the best slasher of the whole series.
That's funny because side note, to me, Friday the 13th, Part 3, yes, it is a lot of fun. But to me, it's like one of the most generic slasher films of all time, but not in a bad way. But in
remember
a way
the time
of like,
it was made, that wasn't generic yet.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying. It's like last time I watched it, I was like, I'm just imagining the guys from Cabin in the Woods watching what's going on a screen.
Yeah.
On screen, because you have all the archetypes, you got great kills. It's just like a perfect snapshot of what slasher films were, and that's what's great.
But it's distinctly not Halloween. The thing is, like, Halloween is distinctly not Halloween. And like, even though you have a really great character in Jason Voorhees, there's something about Michael Myers. And again, people will disagree. And that's okay, because Jason Voorhees is fucking cool too. But like, to me, Michael Myers, there's something about him. And even the bad movies in the series are somewhat interesting. Like number 6, you know what?
It tries.
Fucking hell, it does. And it tries pretty well.
No one else was trying at that.
Yeah, it shoots its shot.
Yeah.
That shot maybe isn't a great shot to shoot, but you know what? They
Gun's
shot
a little rickety. Yeah.
It's I was gonna make an Alec Baldwin joke, but this is nope, not gonna do it. But anyway, the first Halloween is just really fucking great in a way that, even though it is the template, and I could appreciate why younger folk may not enjoy it because it might seem a little tame and boring, but I guarantee if you rewatch it as you get older, if you're a lover of film and appreciation of the art of filmmaking, understanding the context of time, place, and effort are essential to appreciating Halloween, because it's so much better than it had any right being, but it is also completely impossible to replicate because of how simple and how unintentional everything came together.
Yeah. Despite
some intention. I'm not taking anything away from it. But anyway, that's our top 7. What would be something that you would put on your list, your honorable mention?
They Live is a strong number 8 for sure.
I second that.
Yeah.
It's between that or Escape from LA, but I'm going to give it to They Live because it's pretty great. It's pretty great.
And I will say, Vampires, not great, but I thought about it, and I think Vampires is the most John Carpenter film. Like, if you were to draw a Venn diagram of all his peccadillos, like of all the things that he loves to put in all of his movies, Vampires has the most of them. So
I mean, him and Craven both had I'd say, of the two of them that went to the vampire genre, Carpenter's is vastly superior to Dracula 2000.
He executive produced Dracula 2000.
It's got his name all over it. They paid for a name, and that's what they gained.
His name's on Wishmaster too, but he had fuck all to do with that. I mean, I thought he was going to say
would love to license my
Brooklyn,
name,
but all right.
Hey, Vampire Brooklyn's not a bad movie. It's weird. It's just it's way ahead of its time too. It's probably still ahead of its time because it hasn't found the audience it needs to. But yeah, this is about Carpenter, but Craven, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, fuck James Woods, but like,
fuck him hard.
But the character is entertaining. It's an entertaining movie. It's not a good movie, but it is eminently watchable.
But it's also like there's parts of it that are distinctly not Carpenter though. Like, it's very misogynistic and like, in a way that Carpenter was never like. I can't think of a single Carpenter movie where there was ever any violence against women aside from kidnapping.
I mean, they're shooting at them
or killing,
being
stabbed, right? But it's never exploitated. It's never exploited in the way that like Stephen Baldwin, right?
Not
Daniel Baldwin.
Daniel. That sounds right.
He beats the shit out of that woman.
In slow motion.
And like,
it's weird.
Doesn't like there's just part like when you watch it, like it's kind of cringe inducing because you're like, that is not like it's almost over. It's excessively mean, and that's not like Carpenter's not excessively mean. So you can tell it's like something that was clearly like not something. you can see his stamp on it and the way that he directs the character of James Wood. James Wood's character feels like Kurt Russell said no, and they got James Woods to do Kurt Russell, and he did a good job. Daniel Baldwin looks like Alec, his brothers.
Got stung by a ton of bees.
Yeah, but like he's kind of uninteresting.
Yeah, and
his arc is similarly interesting, and like the cast of like ensemble vampire hunters are kind of marginally interesting, but they're also
but then
they all fucking die. So it's like, and the lead vampire is not, he's copy paste Dracula. Like he is not interesting or different in any way. The story is convoluted as fuck. Like it doesn't really make any sense. But you know what makes it entertaining?
It's a Western.
You can tell that John Carpenter must have changed some of the dialogue. You could tell that it's got Carpenter's like, I'm gonna make James Woods a complete John Wayne dickhead motherfucker, except he hunts vampires, not indigenous people. So,
not a great movie.
No.
I don't.
You know why I think we like it? I'm gonna be honest. I think it's because it came out at a point in time where we were of the age where we were able to start seeing those things without. I mean, I don't know about your parents, how strict they were. Mine were not strict. When I reached a certain age, they're like, just don't do heroin. And so like that was the the best.
With God.
The bar was high enough where I could get low, but but they stopped caring about me watching like R-rated movies, and like so I had some autonomy in renting it, and it was one of those movies where like it's kind of like H2O. I saw it at a time where I was so excited to see it in the way I saw it in the theater on opening night that it doesn't matter how much it's not that good, I still love it.
Yeah. I don't even know if I love it, but it's entertaining.
It's endlessly. You can rewatch it. You can rewatch it easily.
It is. Like, but it's funny to go through and see like all the Carpenterisms.
And
it's like the closest thing to a Western that he wanted to make.
And I don't know whose idea this was. I'm imagining it's Carpenter's son getting him all the roses and nobody. And I believe it was based on a book. So
called Vampires, but
like
the
a money sign. Yeah, of course, as you do. But there's the way that they kill the vampires, like the opening and the ending, are so fucking good that it makes the fucking soggy middle, except for like the massacre scene, really interesting. And it's all has to do with like that crossbow pulley system they got going, which makes, by the way, physically makes no fucking sense without them having to constantly. It's so inefficient.
Like just burn the house down.
It's just
What are we doing?
I mean, but it doesn't look as cool. We can all acknowledge that.
That's true. That's true.
So anyway, that's our Carpenter top 7.
God, we're ending it on vampires, but Halloween was still
Halloween's still number 1. But just because there's just not much more to say about, like, it's kind of hard to talk about some of these movies because they've been talked about ad nauseum. But it is important to recognize why we like them, appreciate them. But with that, I think we're not going to do the Rob Zombie idea next, but that's.
We'll do something.
You've got the gears turning on that one.
He's worth talking about.
Yes, he is an artist appreciation, if you will. Who knows?
The assessment of sure.
Yeah. Well, a behind the. I'm not going to be able to riff on that well enough to make it interesting. So I'll just spin a bookmark it there. Figure it out. So, to be fair, but for those that get it, you'll love it. For everyone else, it's okay. Any closing sentiments?
No. But the thing is still John Carpenter's best film. Like, love Halloween, but like he became a better filmmaker after that.
It's like comparing someone's first masterpiece to their third masterpiece,
I know.
which like a handful of people ever get to do. Right?
But it's like it's his best film because he is a better director at that point. But Halloween still
and more resources.
Yeah, and more money but Halloween, it's magic. It's just magic. Yeah,
it is movie magic. Yeah. Well, with that, I'm Matt Orozco. You can find me at Macabre _Matty on Instagram, and
I am Lowell Greenblat at Lowell School at Instagram and at Living Deadpan on Twitter.
Boom. For all the Elon overlords, you can find him on Elon Twitter now. Stay safe, be good, and watch more movies.
Later.